Well, still it sits, and I am with Ivor Macfarlane, industry legend in his own lifetime.
Dinosaur is probably the word you're
Sorry?
looking for. Industry dinosaur is probably the word you're looking for.
Well, whatever you say, I'll go with legend. Ivor, great to see you. I haven't seen you for a few years, and I know you're living the charmed life in Portugal and occasionally
I just
popping over.
Sits is a good trigger to come back for a couple of weeks.
I just wanted to ask you a couple of things about, particularly because I know you're still doing bits and pieces, you're doing bits of training and stuff like that, but just looking slightly from the outside at the industry at the moment, dipping in every so often, probably gives you a slightly different perspective on where we are. Do you think there's been much change? Do you think we're still missing a trick, or are we still?
I don't know about missing a trick. I've been walking around, particularly talking to the companies I'd never heard of before, just to see what's new. And a couple of interesting things to me I found today. One was a long conversation with Ken Wilson, another man who describes himself happily as an industry dinosaur.
Oh, I definitely call him a dinosaur. Yeah.
But what they're doing in Bright Horse is focusing on experience in a way that I think I've been preaching about for 30 years. About it only matters what people actually think. You can't measure it precisely. There's not exact numbers, but that doesn't mean you don't have to take it serious. And feeling that, along with Happy Signals, who we've obviously known about for years, we're seeing the rise of people who are actually beginning to understand what really matters and suggest how we take that more seriously and do something about it. And I think that finally is good news. Getting to challenge that IT assumption that IT people do the difficult stuff and everything else is easy. That's just all woolly and waffling. But actually there's a lot of science and art to get in that. So that was one area I was encouraged to see. And the other one was a little company up the top end whose name I've forgotten. But when I do DevOps courses, you talk about the tool chain. And they call it the DevOps tool chain, but it's not. It's the deployment tool chain or the development tool chain, and it stops. And you look at that side of the world, and it's come up with the traditional development perspective of you buy the best of everything and make them work together, glue them together. And then you go over the line and you get into service management area where you have a tradition of you buy one integrated tool that does everything so it all fits together. And it was really interesting to see a company that's come from the service management area but is trying to get over that wall a bit and bring the pervasive idea into the overlapping a bit more into the development area, because I don't think we've still, if you're trying to talk DevOps, we still haven't bridged that. We've got the one approach and then the other. And to see the first company that I know about that's actually tried to get over that bridge and break that internal silo down, I thought that was an encouraging message to see.
That is an for me that's been a challenge for a long time, is that we have expected people to come to us or not engaged enough, and other, like DevOps and so on, other areas that have been the same. So anything where there is that bleeding over has got to be positive. In terms of, the tool set industry has been around for a long time now, and I'd like to think it was growing up a bit. Do you think it's mature? Do you think it's reached a point of, good maturity, or as an industry, not just from the point of view of tools?
I think good maturity is probably wildly over-optimistic. They may have reached a sufficient state of adolescence where you'd let them out on their own. But I think we're a long way from sophisticated maturity.
So what's missing?
I think that broader picture, the cohesion. We get people talking about enterprise service management, we get people talking about DevOps supporting tools, but we still haven't got that ability to see a whole nested structure of tools that take us from the nitty-gritty to the broader area. And I think that the experience level is still the area where we're missing. We still haven't got the human elements of what we need to develop into the way we monitor very well. But I think there is definite progress. And maybe a lowering of expectations, which will be a major area of success. People don't necessarily see a tool as the answer and everything you need to do. And if we get away from magic pill syndrome, then I think that would be serious progress too.
And Okay, so I mean that is positive if we do get to that level of maturity, if you like. Do you think we will? I mean, it sounds like you're encouraged by some of the steps, like the DevOps and so on.
Yeah.
What would be a major milestone in moving up from adolescence to young adulthood? Put it that way.
That's a very good question. I have no idea what the answer would be. As all adolescents don't know what they should do next, I suppose. I think a reduction in hype. If you do walk around here, what you still see is this is the only product will do everything you've ever wanted.
I know, yeah.
And this is written by ITIL experts. And I think, well, that's not going to make me buy anything. That's going to make me walk away from it instantly. And it's all about, there's still a big push on industry experts. And actually, the people who are going to use this tool are not experts. And what I want is something that's aimed at non-experts, something that is much more intuitive. And there's still, I think, that issue. If I make it super smart and super clever, it'll do the job. Yeah. And what I will be looking for is something that just routinely does it without so much fuss. So maybe a bit less fuss, I think, and a bit less, like it just does the job for you. You don't need to understand quite how it works. Would be a move to maturity. We're still in the fiddle with it, tinker with it, isn't it wonderful and magic situation.
Well, I look forward to hearing you discussing that with marketing people.
Yeah, well, no.
I
think one of the reasons also, I think that we've seen progress here compared to previous sets. It's not year on year. We've actually had 3 years of work going on. Yeah. And an area of lockdown, so people have been maybe locked away playing with things. So you would expect, I think, to see quite a big step of difference after that 3-year gap.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what you're saying is positive, and you know, that whole thing of the maturity part of just lowering expectations and you know, just good enough. Yeah. I mean, that's a business mantra, isn't it? Good enough as opposed to perfect.
Yeah. There's another one last comment. We're doing the DevOps courses. There's a quote from Patrick Dubois, the man who made up the term in the first place. And when you do the course and you read all the material and you push it, it's all about breaking down silos. We used to remove silos. And Patrick Dubois had a pinned tweet at the top of his Twitter feed, which I love because he doesn't talk about breaking down silos. He talks about reducing the friction caused by silos. None of this idealism anymore about we can do away with silos. Let's be sensible. Let's reduce the damage they cause because you'll never actually get rid of them. And I think that's the maturity element. And it's that kind of thing. We can't make the world perfect. Can we make it better? And some of the time we've spent too much effort trying to make the world perfect. I've forgotten that we could make it better.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ivor, as ever, thank you very much.